The old keys hit Adrian's hand with a metallic slap that felt like a final dismissal. "Fix this piece of junk and get out of my house," their father said, his voice low and final eyes avoiding the identical faces of his sons as if looking at them burned. Adrian stood frozen in the driveway of their Oklahoma home, the weight of the keys heavier than the rusty 1970 Ford pickup truck they were attached to. Damien stood beside him, his twin's presence the only steady thing in a world that had just cracked open. The truck sat there like a forgotten relic, paint peeling off in large flakes, tires barely holding air, a gift from a family that no longer wanted them around. It was their 20th birthday, but instead of cake or celebration, there was this, a symbol of rejection wrapped in obligation. Their father, Deacon Harlan, crossed his arms over his broad chest, the same chest that had once carried them as babies. "Your mother and I have prayed for you boys. Prayed hard. But this lifestyle you choose, it can't stay under our roof. Take the truck Grandpa left. Fix it up. Become men. And don't come back until you do." The words hung in the humid evening air. Their mother, standing on the porch with tears streaming, silently didn't say a word. She never did when father spoke. Adrian's jaw clenched, anger boiling up like the engine he knew would struggle to start. For 2 years since they came out, the house had become a battlefield of silent treatments, forced prayers, and Sunday sermons directed at them. The town knew. Whispers at the grocery store, friends who suddenly had no time. Damien, always the quieter one, had taken it harder, retreating into books and journals, questioning if their identity was enough to destroy everything their parents had built. "We don't need your prayers anymore, Dad," Adrian said, his voice steady despite the storm inside. "Well, take the truck. But we're not coming back to beg." Damien shot him a look, a mix of fear and reluctant agreement. Part of Damien wanted to fall to his knees and promise to change to make the family whole again. The guilt ate at him every night, the thought that their choices were tearing their mother apart, that the community their family had built over generations now saw them as the sinners who brought shame. They packed quickly, throwing clothes, Adrian's camera, Damien's notebooks into the back. The truck groaned to life after several tries, black smoke puffing from the exhaust. As they pulled away, the headlights cutting through the dark rural road, Adrian gripped the wheel. "This is it, D. Freedom. Or whatever this rust bucket can give us." Damien stared out the window at the disappearing lights of their town. What if we're wrong? What if family is supposed to come first no matter what? The first 100 miles were tense. The engine rattled, the radio static filled, but they really talked for the first time without fear of being overheard. Adrian dreamed of Los Angeles, photographing the ocean, capturing lives that weren't dictated by small-town judgment. Damien wanted to write stories where people like them didn't have to hide. The rusty car became their confessional, its creaks and groans punctuating their confessions of loneliness, first crushes hidden in high school, the night they told their parents, and the world shattered. By midnight, in the middle of nowhere on the edge of Texas, the temperature gauge spiked. Adrian pulled over, steam hissing from the hood. They popped it open, staring at the old engine like it was a foreign language. "Great start," Damien muttered, but there was a small smile. For the first time, they were facing the unknown together, not as boys under their father's roof, but as men choosing their path. Yet the internal war raged. Adrian felt liberated, ready to burn bridges. Damien felt the pull of guilt, wondering if this journey was escape or selfishness. The car had started their exile, but neither knew it held secrets that would one day force them to decide what price they were willing to pay for truth. They slept in the cab that night, windows cracked against the Oklahoma heat. Adrian woke first, the sunrise, painting the flat land in soft oranges. He watched Damien sleep, the same face he had seen every day of his life, but now it carried the same burdens. When Damien stirred, they shared a quiet breakfast of gas station snacks and decided to head toward New Mexico. The road stretched endless, the truck holding steady for now. Every mile took them farther from the life they knew and closer to whatever waited beyond the horizon. As the day wore on, the engine began to knock softly. Adrian coaxed it along, whispering encouragement like it was a living thing. Damien flipped through his notebook, scribbling notes about the landscape, the way the light hit the fields. They stopped at a small diner for lunch, the waitress giving them a long look when they sat together. The twins ignored it, ordering burgers and talking about how they would restore the truck, sell photos and stories to make ends meet. But inside, Adrian wondered if the world would ever let them be just two brothers chasing dreams. Damien wondered if he could ever stop feeling like he owed their parents a version of himself that didn't exist. By late afternoon, they crossed into New Mexico, the landscape shifting to red rocks and open sky. The truck made it to a small town called Tucumcari, where they found a cheap motel. The clerk raised an eyebrow at two young men sharing a room, but handed over the key without comment. That night, as they lay on separate beds, the silence grew heavy. Adrian broke it first. "We did the right thing, right, Dee? Staying would have killed us slowly." Damien stared at the ceiling. "Maybe. But Mom looked so broken. What if we never fix this?" The conversation turned to their grandfather, the man who had owned the truck before it sat forgotten. He had died when they were kids, leaving behind stories of wanderlust and secrets no one spoke about. Perhaps this car was more than a goodbye. Perhaps it was a bridge to something they hadn't imagined. The thought gave them a spark of hope as they fell asleep, exhausted but alive with the first real sense of possibility since the keys had landed in Adrian's palm. The next morning, they woke to the sound of the truck ticking as it cooled. They decided to spend the day in town finding parts and tools. At the local auto shop, a young mechanic named Jordan with grease on his hands and a warm smile helped them. He listened as Adrian explained the trip and offered advice on the engine. For the first time in days, the twins felt seen without judgment. As they worked side by side, Adrian felt a pull toward Jordan, a quiet connection that made his chest tighten with new hope. Damien noticed but said nothing, his own thoughts turning inward. The car had brought them here, and already the road was changing them in ways they could not predict. The parts arrived late the next morning, and Jordan stayed after his shift to help install them. Adrian and Jordan worked shoulder to shoulder, the conversation flowing easy from cars to dreams. Jordan had grown up in a similar town and understood the weight of leaving. Damien watched from the side, his notebook open but his pen still. The guilt from the night before lingered, making him question every laugh, every shared glance. Was he holding Adrian back, or was Adrian the one pushing them into a life they weren't ready for? By afternoon, the truck ran smoother than it had in years. They thanked Jordan and paid what they could. As they prepared to leave, Jordan slipped Adrian his number. "Call if you need anything on the road. Or just to talk." Adrian smiled, pocketing it, the gesture warming him against the uncertainty ahead. Damien felt a twist of envy, not jealousy, but the realization that his brother might find connection while he still wrestled with shadows from home. They hit the road again, the engine humming with new life. The landscape opened into wide deserts, the sun beating down relentless. They stopped at a viewpoint, the rusty truck parked beside a scenic overlook. Adrian pulled out his camera, capturing the vastness, the way the light danced on the rocks. Damien wrote in his notebook describing the scene, but his words kept circling back to family, the way their father had turned away the silence from their mother. A call came in the afternoon, their mother's number on the screen. Adrian answered, putting it on speaker. "Boys, please come home. Your father is hurting, but he loves you. We can work through this with counseling, the church." Damien gripped the door handle, his voice cracking. "Mom, we can't pretend anymore. This is who we are." The line went quiet, then their father's voice cut in sharp. "If you keep this up, don't expect anything from us. The truck, the clothes we gave you, it's all you get." Click. The words landed like stones in still water. Adrian pulled over, his hand shaking on the wheel. "We knew this was coming." Damien nodded, tears in his eyes. "But hearing it makes it real." They sat there for an hour, talking through the pain, the decision to keep going, the fear that they might never repair the rift. Adrian chose to push forward, believing distance would heal. Damien weighed the cost, wondering if silence could have saved them all. The moral line blurred, family loyalty versus self-truth. Evening brought them to a larger town, where they found work at a garage for a few days to earn gas money. The owner, a gruff man, asked no questions, but his wife made them dinner and listened to their story with kind eyes. For the first time, they felt a glimpse of acceptance outside their bubble. Adrian called Jordan that night, the conversation light and easy, ending with plans to meet if paths crossed again. Damien watched his brother, the spark in Adrian's eyes reminding him that life could hold more than guilt. The next day, they continued west, the truck holding strong. But tension built as Damien received a text from an old friend back home, warning that their father had told the church everything. The community was praying for their souls in ways that felt like condemnation. Damien kept it from Adrian at first, but the secret weighed heavy. When he finally shared it, the argument flared. "Why didn't you tell me right away?" Adrian demanded. "Because I didn't want to drag you down," Damien replied. The exchange left them silent for miles, each wrestling with how much to sacrifice for the other. By nightfall, they reached Arizona, the stars brilliant above the desert. They camped beside the truck, the fire crackling, as they shared stories from childhood, the times they had protected each other from bullies, the bond that had always been their anchor. Adrian decided then that no matter the cost, he would not turn back. Damien made a quieter vow to find his own strength, even if it meant facing the world alone. The rusty car sat nearby, its metal still warm from the day, a silent witness to their growing resolve and the price they were already paying. The Grand Canyon stretched before them like a painting, come to life, the morning light turning the layers of rock into gold and crimson. Adrian and Jordan had connected again by chance, Jordan driving through on his own trip and meeting them at the rim. They sat on the hood of the truck laughing over bad coffee, the kind of easy joy that made Adrian feel seen for the first time beyond his twin bond. Damien stood a little apart, his notebook in hand, capturing the moment in words, but feeling the pull of loneliness. He wanted that kind of connection too, but fear held him back, the voice of their father echoing in his mind. They hiked a short trail, the three of them, the conversation turning to life choices. Jordan shared his own coming-out story, the struggles and the freedom that followed. Adrian listened, nodding, his camera clicking away. Damien hung back, his thoughts churning. Was it selfish to want happiness when it hurt the people who raised them? The question gnawed deeper with every step. Back at the truck, they parted with Jordan, promising to stay in touch. Adrian hugged him, the gesture simple but full of promise. Damien watched the exchange, a mix of happiness for his brother and quiet ache for himself. As they drove on, the engine steady now, the landscape shifted to more canyons. A flat tire forced them to stop, the first real test of their repair work. They changed it together, hands dirty, sweat mixing with dust, the physical labor grounding them. That night in a small motel, Damien called their mother alone. She begged him to come home alone, if needed, to give Adrian space. The offer tempted him, the idea of easing her pain by sacrificing his path. He hung up without promising anything, but the seed of doubt planted deep. The next morning, he told Adrian part of the call, the argument that followed, revealing the fracture growing between them. Adrian felt betrayed by the secrecy. Damien felt trapped by the expectations. They pushed into Utah, the truck climbing hills, the twins working as a team despite the tension. A kind stranger at a rest stop shared tools and stories of his own family, riffed the conversation, a small bomb. Adrian photographed the man, the image capturing resilience. Damien wrote about it, the words helping him process. Yet the moral dilemma loomed larger with every mile. Was their freedom worth the family they left behind, or were they obligated to bend for peace? The road brought small victories, a job photographing a local event for Adrian, extra cash for Damien from an online writing gig. The money felt like independence, the first taste of a life they built. But a news story on the radio about rising prejudice in small towns reminded them the world outside wasn't always kind. They faced it head-on at a diner where a customer made a cutting remark. Adrian stood up calmly, defending them, both his decision to speak out a turning point. Damien admired it, but wondered if silence might have been safer. As night fell, they reached a scenic highway, pull off the truck parked under stars. They talked late into the night, the bond between them strengthening through honesty. Adrian chose to trust the path, Damien chose to keep fighting the guilt. The rusty car had become more than transportation, it was the vessel carrying their hopes and the weight of every choice. Colorado welcomed them with mountains, the air cooler, the truck handling the climbs with newfound strength. They found work in a small tourist town, Adrian taking photos for a local shop, Damien writing articles for the paper. The routine felt normal, the first real stability since leaving home. Adrian reconnected with Jordan, who had driven up to visit the weekend, bringing laughter and a sense of possibility. They spent an afternoon hiking, the connection deepening into something real and hopeful without rush. Damien met Ethan at the coffee shop where he wrote, a quiet artist with a gentle spirit who understood the weight of family expectations. Their conversation started slow over shared tables, then grew into long walks, the kind of emotional bond that made Damien feel less alone. The twin brothers shared their new connections that night, the discussion filled with cautious optimism and underlying fear of what it meant for their future. But the past caught up. Their father called again, this time with an ultimatum. Come home and we will welcome you back as sons. Stay out there, and the door closes forever. The words forced a choice Adrian ready to cut ties, Damien torn between loyalty and self. They argued late, the decision weighing on them both. Adrian chose to stay true to himself. Damien agreed, but the compromise felt fragile. The next day, they restored more of the truck, the physical work a distraction. Inside the glove box, Damien found the hidden compartment, the old letters from their grandfather revealing a hidden family truth, a trust fund set aside for any grandchildren who lived authentically away from the small town chains. The discovery stunned them, the car not a punishment, but a deliberate message from a man who had hidden his own truth. The revelation brought joy, but also conflict. Claiming it meant confronting their father, who had apparently known and hidden it. Adrian saw it as justice. Damien saw it as another betrayal that would deepen the family wound. They debated for hours the moral cost of taking what was rightfully theirs versus preserving what little family remained. A local festival gave them a break, Adrian photographing the event, Damien selling stories. Ethan and Jordan joined the joy, tangible, the four of them creating a chosen family moment. But a message from their sister warned that their father was coming, the confrontation inevitable. The twins prepared, the decisions ahead clear, yet terrifying. The drive into California felt like crossing a threshold, the landscape shifting to coast, the truck steady, as if sensing the end of the journey. They arrived in Los Angeles, the city buzzing with life, the rusty car standing out among the sleek vehicles. They used the clues from the letters to locate the lawyer handling the trust, the paperwork revealing a modest inheritance enough to start fresh. Adrian and Jordan explored the city, the romance building through shared sunsets and honest talks, the connection helping Adrian heal from the family scars. Damien and Ethan did the same, walks on the pier, conversations about art and identity, the bond giving Damien strength to face his doubts. The twins supported each other, the bond unbreakable despite separate paths. But the father arrived unannounced, the hotel lobby, confrontation raw and loud. He demanded they reject the inheritance, return home, and conform. The scene drew eyes, the public nature forcing choices. Adrian stood firm, explaining their right to the legacy. Damien tried to mediate, the pain evident in every word. The betrayal came from an unexpected place. Their sister had told the father the location out of misguided love. The revelation hurt, but open dialogue, the family airing years of hurt. The father left without resolution, the twins left to decide the next step. They chose to claim the fund, the decision, a trade-off of family for future. The car, now fully restored, symbolized their journey, the rust gone, but the history intact. Life in the city settled, the twins renting a small place, Adrian building a photography portfolio, Damien publishing his first pieces. The relationships with Jordan and Ethan flourished, the support helping them navigate the emotional fallout. Calls from their mother came sporadic, the conversations tense but not cut off, the door cracked open. A crisis hit when the trust required a public statement, the family name tied to it. The choice to go public meant exposing the family's secret, the moral dilemma peaking. Adrian pushed for transparency, Damien hesitated, the cost to their mother weighing heavy. They decided together, the statement honest but kind, the action bringing closure and new beginnings. The backlash from the community back home came swift, but the twins stood together, the price paid in lost ties but gained in self-respect. The car became their business asset, used for shoots and deliveries, the symbol of reversal complete. Months passed, the twins thriving, the chosen family growing. A visit from their mother alone brought tentative reconciliation, the conversation filled with tears, and understanding, the father still distant but the healing starting. The twins made the choice to forgive without forgetting the balance, hard one. Damien published a story inspired by the journey, the words capturing the pain and the triumph. Adrian exhibited photos, the car featured prominently the image of resilience. The relationships deepened, the future bright with possibility. Yet the cost lingered, family gatherings, missed holidays altered the internal scars, fading but present. They talked often, the decisions revisited, the lessons learned. The rusty car, now shining, sat in their driveway, a reminder of the road that changed everything. The twins stood beside it with Jordan and Ethan, the group laughing under the California sun. The inheritance had given them stability, the journey had given them strength. Their mother visited more often, the father sending a card, the first small step. They had paid the price in tears and distance but gained a life of authenticity. The decisions they made, the confrontations, the sacrifices, all led to this moment of peace. Adrian chose to reach out to their father one more time. Damien supported the move, the family bond not broken but transformed. As the sun set over the city, the brothers reflected on the rusty car that had flipped their fate, the gift that looked like rejection but delivered freedom. The path had been hard, the choices controversial, but worth every mile. True or false? The family was right to give the twins nothing but a rusty car as their only way forward, or did that harsh act ultimately become the greatest gift that forced them to find their true strength and happiness?